Thinking about playing a Devouring Swarm but wanting to play Tall? Well, look no further. I have created the Tall build updated from my past 2.2 build to the newest 2.7 patch called the Collector's build. Now it's based off the Collectors from Mass Effect 2. This build will be about rapidly expanding to 3 planets as soon as possible, thus playing Tall, and locking down my core territory with bastions, and then rushing the Nihilistic Acquisition Ascension Perk as fast as possible. First off, we're stepping to the most important part of this video, the actual Empire design. Now, this initial part is just personal preference, but when I choose an appearance, I choose the fungoids that resemble a fungus on our planet that steals ants and essentially creates zombie ants. In this game, it shows that funguses' growth on other species' portraits in this. It shows kind of like they're controlling or eating the aliens that they're growing upon. Regardless, the other species' portraits are decaying and have fungus growing all on them. There are 4 portraits in the game that have the fungoids doing this. Now for the species name, I like to create my own using an external name generator, as I find the ones within Star Wars to be lacking, boring, or you just find them just with every other game. I want something unique, so I choose an external name generator, which I find adds a bit more flavor to how each and every one of my empires generates. Then choosing a name list, just choose whatever you like or download mods for different name lists as you see fit. Traits. The first trait I am choosing today is Rapid Breeders for an even faster pop growth speed, Agrarian for a boost to our food growth, and I'm grabbing Traditional for a boost to our Unity since we will be rushing Nihilistic Acquisition. Now if you don't want to grab Traditional, another alternative to grabbing that one will be Natural Sociologists, since you will be wanting to grab more society techs, specifically grabbing techs that work your way into grabbing more food and then gene editing, which is a very good alternative pick to this. For my negative traits, it's ultimately up to you how you want to play, but I grabbed Unruly and Solitary as both can eventually be gene edited out, so it's really just fine like that. Now for grabbing the origin pick, I chose Remnants as it gives me a 22 tile relic world, which is pretty good. And whenever I remove ruined arcologies, I will receive random techs that will make things go even faster, hopefully unlocking a tech that I need in the future, but grabbing other techs as well so that I don't have to focus on researching them, they just pop up. Hopping over into the Government and Ethics tab, you should obviously be choosing a Hive Mind if you're playing this, and the Devouring Swarm. For the second civic point, I grabbed Ascetic for amenities, or maintenance in this case, is a very valuable pick since you cannot build buildings that house maintenance drones anymore since the latest patch. So grabbing a thing that will reduce my maintenance here and then eventually getting one added into my traits when gene editing will make things a bit easier in the long run for amenities. Now hopping into the actual game, your early game will be essential trying to work your way into grabbing some techs. We're going to hop right into the techs here right away, jumping into physics first. Right away that you want to grab techs that increase weapons or shields as a plus 5% to your overall research speed is a very strong one. Now you don't have to worry about grabbing techs that will give your researchers a boost, a 20% boost, since you do not have as many research buildings built, so it's kind of irrelevant for the first few years of the game until you get more buildings or upgraded buildings going. That's when you want to grab it. Now for society, this is the most important part of the build, is society tech. You're going to want to grab any of the following techs immediately. Right away is pop growth speed, which is a super essential one. Grabbing techs that increase unity is also a good pick. And going for techs that boost food generation by 20% is a very important one as well, as the level 3 version of the food generation one will give you an edict that has nutritional plentitude, which will give you a plus 10% boost to population growth, so that is a very strong one to grab if we're going to be working on grabbing as high of a population growth speed as possible in this build. Now hopping over to the engineering tab, in my opinion, my favorite techs to rush is the tech that gives me fighters, as throwing them into my bastions on choke points, it will inflate your fleet strength on the stations, since as bunch of fighters in there, larger than it would for missiles and gun batteries. So that will be a very good first pick, to be honest, for that. Now, if those don't show up, you can grab whatever picks you can. As for like physics, I would grab energy techs, and then for engineering, I would grab techs that increase minerals. Okay, so as a pretty basic opening to the game, you are going to want to send out your first science ship all the way out to the first choke point you want on the edge of your core territory. And you can either send the ship there immediately or survey all the systems on the way to that choke point with a construction ship, following it and building kind of outposts on its way there. Once you grab your choke point, immediately start building a bastion so that you can reinforce it. Also, right away in the first, before it's even unpaused, sell 200 all of your food. Use that food to buy a new scientist, but you also, still when it's paused, you are going to want to build a new science ship, and it will be ready to go within a few seconds if you're playing on fastest right off the bat. Take that second science ship and go all the way down in the opposite direction to the next choke point you want, and work your way to building a bastion there as well. Now for your initial traditions, you are going to want to rush the expansion tree, and in the order I grab stuff, I grab amoebic synapses so I can get star bases even cheaper than they already are. 1 mine for the pop growth speed, spawning frenzy also, or is it maybe the other way around? This one gives you 10%. Regardless, you're going to get an extra pop, more growth speed, so that's a very good one. And then you're going to want to grab Unlimited Autonomy and then blot out the stars in that order. Your first Ascension Perk will be Nihilistic Acquisition, and then after that you're going to want to hop on over to the Supremacy Tree because you're going to be getting ready to go to war here right away. Now back to the beginning of the game, kind of, you're going to be wanting to rush colonies as well as if you find them. If you find a world you can have colonize, you're going to want to do that immediately to get those colonies up and running. If you're playing on max habitable worlds, guaranteed habitable worlds, you're going to have 2 other planets, and you're going to want to rush those planets as fast as possible. Hopefully they're close to you and not stuck in a weird hyperlane configuration that you can't get to it. At that point, I would just restart the game. Now, at this point in the game, you should be getting ready to go to war with your neighbors. Your colony should have alloy plants built on them. You should be generating enough alloys to sustain a new fleet, and you should have your Nihilistic Acquisition. That being said, you are now going to go to war with your first neighbor. Choose one, obviously, that's weaker than you, if possible. If not, find one that's equivalent. And you're going to declare war on them, and you're going to rush right into their territory. Remember, you are here to feed, you are not here to conquer. You're here to steal their pops as the galaxy is your pasture, and your neighbors are your livestock. So you're going to rush those planets, have your raiding stance equipped, you're going to get to those planets, taking star bases along the way. That was the one thing I would do, is grab star bases so you can repair your fleets. And screw the rest, they can have the rest of the territory, you don't need it. And you're going to capture as many pops off their planet as possible. Completely wipe it down to 1 pop can be left on that planet, or 2, something like that. And then as soon as you got all the pops that you require, not surrender, but have a status quo. You keep whatever you've captured, they get all their turf back, and you retreat back into your planets, your core territory, and you're going to have a feast on their people. Hopefully by this point in the game, you might be getting around to getting that tier 3 of the food production perks, which should give you gene crops that has that nutritional plentitude, which I talked about earlier, that gives you a population boost of 10%. And you're going to be rolling in food at this point, and unity and society tech. So you should also be coming up with having gene editing techs coming up, which you're going to get rid of your negative traits and replace them with communal and charismatic, or whatever one comes in. So at this point, it's pretty much play as you wish. I set up the galaxy for you initially. Now it's just for you to enjoy at this point. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, or if there's any discrepancies in how you would like to play, just let me know down in the comments. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.